PRC, the fundamental purpose of the PARC is to support stakeholders as well as stakeholders' confidence and ensure that the alignment to the African mining vision and Agenda 2063 is being materialized in good social, environmental, and economic benefits that will assure that Africa becomes, global traders when it comes to resources. As you can see in the diagram below, this is the reality of of Africa. Multi-corporations come to our shores, our countries, explore what they want to explore. We have neo-colonizers that come, like the issue of France and the Francophonic countries. We can identify with Francophonic countries that their countries are actually below development, is underdeveloped. If there's any other word for underdevelopment, is most sub-Saharan African Francophonic countries, where most of their resources is not given to them, has to be, deposited in France in terms of the return, the transactions. And these individuals have to only assess at least about 40% for their budget. And when they want capital projects, it has to be done by French companies. And if not French companies, there must be justification why another company has to have it. So that shows a lot of neo-colonization by these foreign powers. And we can see our minerals being moved, shipped out, our primary production still on the primary extraction stage, where we only ship out our raw materials, and what we get in return is just, a fraction of what has been packaged in a very nice looking bag. And to us, we are eating foreign foods, not knowing that it's our own local materials that is being processed to have those form of, you know, services being rendered to us. So as we can see, another picture by the side of the one that shows how they have exploited Africa and why Africa needs to sit up in terms of how he is going to master his resources, explore his resources, have economic benefits, and also make sure that this environment is not, that we have environmental protection alongside the standard of living of Africans improve. And we can see in the Africa Reserve and Resource Reporting Code, it's meant to support stakeholders, that's countries that have mineral resources and how these mineral resources can help improve their livelihood. This diagram is for the next topic, but let me just say it out. The distributed energy resource management system markets. So as you can see, this was initiated in 2022, and it's basically on green energy, but we'll talk about that later. Then we have the green mineral resource in Africa. Africa is a potential, in short, it's not potential, it's sitting on gold mine, it's sitting on many mineral resources that change the world for what the world is. But instead of them doing businesses with us, they tend to do the stick and carrot approach, causing conflicts, making us look like we don't know ourselves. And that's because the black race, I don't know, we need to do better. We need to be more united in terms of collective responsibility and collective purpose, of which the code reporting has helped us, and that of the classification framework has also helped us to see how we can synergize our thought pattern for us to achieve sustainable growth and development in the continent of Africa. But now, in the green mineral resource that deals with environmental sustainability, we understand that these materials can help us conserve the environment. So in conserving the environment, countries like in Asia, America, Europe have identified some mineral resources in Africa, of which in the global markets, Africa have as a reserve base for most of the green energy or green mineral resources that we have in the world. If you can see on this diagram, we have the plutonium group metal, the green hydrology that has 92% reservation of the global reserve in Africa. And that can be seen in South Africa and Zimbabwe. We have cobalt that is used for electric vehicles, EVs. We have 56% reserve in Africa. You can see it's DR Congo, South Africa, Zambia, Madagascar. We also have magnesium or magnesium that is also used for EVs and wind. We have over 50% that is domiciled in Africa. We can see as the countries that have most reserve include Gabon, South Africa, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ghana. So just to mention a few, we can see other green minerals or green energy or clean energy. We can see that one of lithium, we can see the one of tellurium, we can see the one of raw earth, copper, vanadium. We can see these materials are used for green energy, green hydrology, EVs, wind, solar, batteries, and all that. And concentration of most reserve are in Southern Africa and some part of West Africa. You can see in green, because Nigeria has not really identified what green energy we have. On this table, we can see that we have majority of the countries as the Democratic Republic of Congo, Zambia, South Africa. We have Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Guinea, just to mention a few. So, but for the dominant one, it's been seen in that of Zimbabwe and South Africa. And just to say a few. So which material are important for Africa? The factor that makes a material important or critical change over time and vary by country. So it depends, your ability for you to exploit, the technology you have, how does it serve you? So it depends on the country criteria and how it varies over time. Like, as we can see for the world order now, the climate change framework and reform that is happening is how to fade away crude. That's the fossil fuel to green energy, which makes green energy to be what is sustainable and what is market driven in the 21st century. So this can include the availability of mineral within a country and how concentrated it is in the ground. The relationship of the country to trade partners who could sell it, whether it can be substituted by another material, as well as global economic importance and national demand drivers. Like now, you can see Nigeria is really moving towards trying to make our liquefying gas to be like a new oil. Then we are now identifying the reserve we have that is even arguably more than even the crude oil reserve. So how do we harness this? Is not the technology that determine how we can actually substitute the crude for the gas. And basically, I think the gas is more economically friendly or environmentally friendly than that of the crude, of which we need to do better in terms of our research and development to that extent. On mineral for green technology, according to the International Energy Agency, IEA, over the next 2 decades, renewable energy technology could account for 40% of total demand for copper and rare earth elements, between 60 to 70 of the total nickel and cobalt demand, and almost 90% of lithium demand. So that's as we are seeing it now, because industries over in the developed world has started transitioning. It's just like the industrial revolution that happened, that now we got into maybe more like technological revolution. We knew that coal was actually the order of the day in the 19th century. But after a period of time, the coal was now changed to fossil fuel, which is the crude. And now there's a dynamic, there's a paradigm shift that is already happening. So now we are looking at industrial revolution. As I explained earlier, industry 1.0 was mechanization, water, and stream power. That's in the 18th century. So it was basically water, generated mechanism that actually occurred at that time. That was the technology that they knew, or the industrial, transformation they knew at that time. Then in the 90s, that's Industry 2.0, we saw it moving to mass production, electric power, and assembling lines. So in the 90s, we now see the development of motor technology, where machines started having how machine can actually multiply the efficiency of production, how they set up plant and factories, and how they started doing electric plants and assembling lines. That's when we started seeing new generations of revolution when it comes to vehicles, rail lines, and even some mini airplanes at that time. Even our ships were actually being, advanced during the 2.0 industry revolution era. Then we now move to industry 3.0, which is in the 2000s, where computer, the data and Microsoft and all that came into being, automated production, electronics as well. When we now started seeing electronics moving from black and white to color TVs, flat screens, and all that. So production became more advanced, satisfaction became more advanced, and livelihood became more easier at the 2000s. Then the industry 4.0 is where cyber physical systems, IoT, networking, machine language. This is where we now start having more applications to help us reduce our difficulty in terms of solving our own physical problems, or um, improving on our indices, depending on what it is. At that time, that's where we knew geographical information systems, remote sensing, where you can actually be on your airplane, you sense your environment and use it for analysis, which makes, even learning and research more easier. And now, what we are having after the 2020 is the involvement of AI, environment, that's intelligence, machine, I don't know what they used to call it myself, artificial intelligence, robotics, human robots, collaboration, cognitive system customization. As we can see, part of it is for us to be able to even discuss at length and going into our archive within seconds. And we'll be able to tell you what the problem is around the world or in your country. That's because the revolution has changed. The industries have moved way ahead. The 21st century is something else. So how can we manage this developmental growth of our industries? And how can it now we factor it into our environmental sustainability, which I think the world has started beginning to do that through their initiative with the climate change forums and the way that they are being able to regulate some particular revolution that is happening. But it's unfortunate that Africa has not even benefited from the industry 1.0, and now we are in industry 5.0. And then that is another school for thought for all of us. And how do we balance economic gains, environmental sustainability or protection, and improve of quality of life? We need to still answer this question as Africans, as especially case study Nigeria. How do we marry all this together and still have the highest satisfaction when it comes to our standard of living, our quality of life? So it's a question to be answered by all of us. So the concept of the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution refers to the period of rapid economic and technological change that began in Britain in the late 18th century and later spread to Europe, North America, and eventually the rest of the world. Unfortunately, Africa belongs to the rest of the world. And it's just for us to now still, try to know where the Industrial Revolution stage. Maybe when the class is opened, we can help ourselves answer that question as well. So it marked the transition from manual agrarian economy to machine-based industrial production. I pray that we get there someday, especially sub-Saharan Africa, because it will amaze you if you go to North Africa, their quality of living, their environmental conservationists, the technology they are using. You think you are in Europe. You don't know that you are still in Africa. And you will now be imagining, why are they segregating us? Why are they making us look like we are not there yet? It's because we are not there yet. So it's high time for our leadership, our governance to look inward and tell themselves the truth. Let's believe we have a problem first. When we identify that we have this problem, how do we now solve it? So when we live in denial and when everybody asks questions and we try to look all perfect, when we know deep inside that we're not there yet, then definitely we might not enjoy what the rest of the world is enjoying till our lifetime exhausts. So, and we need to build our environment to the best of our abilities without affecting the future generation, because environmental sustainability is about protecting the future for the people that are yet unborn. So because we want to make sure that we have satisfaction in terms of quality of life that we live in, doesn't necessitate that we spoil the rest of for the rest of the world after when we are long gone. So we need to balance this environmental balance, basically, sustainability balance. So we have industrial revolution and environmental transformation in Africa. The industrial revolution brought major economic and technological change globally, but Africa experience has been distinct. Unlike Europe, Africa industrialization occurred later, was largely externally driven, and focused mainly on resource extraction rather than manufacturing. So what we have right now is that we have resources. These resources has been identified, but instead of setting up industries that will employ our youth or our young ones, or that can do knowledge transfer for us, we only do that for exploitation, which we have seen in this particular image that shows the multinational corporations coming to Africa and taking what they want, transform it and come and send to us, and we'll continue to say we are woke, we are woke. We are using the latest Samsung. Why is Samsung not assembling in your country? Or because most of those materials are gotten within your space. But we'll definitely take it to abroad, and abroad now sells back to us. Like the instances of the more vehicles that we're buying now. Over there, it's fading out. That's the fossil vehicles, the petroleum vehicles. But we are buying it here at 50 million, 60 million, 22 million, and we are believing that, yeah, we are woke. My car, man, God bless me. You understand? So at the end of the day, we are not moving with the trend. We are not moving with the pattern. So Africa now becomes the dumping ground for most of their own exhausted technology, the technology that they have moved away from. And Africa now become like a deposit, a waste collector. Because at the end of the day, by 2050, most countries are moving away from petrol-driven cars to either green energy cars, EV cars, or solar cars. Africa is not thinking yet. Sub-Saharan Africa is not thinking yet. So I think it calls for recently for us to start looking inwards and start to be partakers, people that contribute, not people that collect information and digest it and we'll use it as our own, bragging rights. We need to make sure that we become stakeholders in evolution, not us being partaker after a revolution has already occurred. Then we have these processes have resulted to profound environmental transformation across the continent. So we have nature of industrialization in Africa. As we all know, our Africa do not or did not experience a classical industrial revolution. Instead, it's industrialized in the industrial development occurred in phases. So we have pre-colonial periods. That's before we got our independence or before the colonial people even came, when Africa was Africa, before they shared us. I don't know even if the sharing was a good thing that would have made us developed on time or was a bad thing. Or is it that they exposed us too early that we didn't know that collectively we can achieve together than individually that we became so selfish and self-centered? Because what is happening in Africa is based on our personal, I don't know if I will use the word greed or I will use the word on human, because we can do better. The wars that are going on in Africa is because of mineral resources. Majority are because of mineral resources. Arguably, is because of mineral resources. And because individuals can step the next person, taking away their fundamental human rights. But when they did the Berlin Conference, Africa was shared in unison. They sat down and they were saying, you take this place, you take this place. But Africans themselves, within communities, they fight themselves to their die. And, I don't know, we need to do better. And for us to be able to manage our resources and improve our industries, we must make sure that we tie resources to industrialization. There must be a synergy between both. We identify, yes, we have resources, but how can it translate to resources? How can it translate to industrialization? How can it translate to environmental, awareness that leads to greener energy that can sustain our livelihood? So the economic value has to be gotten because we've been able to marry all this. And now that's why you see they throw a kind of conflict within most of our communities. And because we are not inductive in nature, we can't think, we can't actually decipher what is really happening. We now submit to these pressures. And that's why we are having most ungoverned spaces within Africa now. Africa has become, in short, Africa has not arrived. Now we are even taking a step backward. And it's really appalling. So we have on ourselves the way we can actually help do this advocacy in terms of how do we sustain our environment, how can we reap the potential of our resources, and how can we increase the potentiality of our industries to help the African youth, the African people to have a very comfortable life. So as we continue, before the pre-colonial, we had small-scale indigenous industries, iron smelting, textile, then environmental sustainability production methods. Then we have, um, during the colonial period, there was an introduction of extractive industry that remove mineral from the ground, the plantation of agricultural produce. We were doing that during then because now those produce were actually, you know, were actually cultivated in Africa and went abroad for processing. And that's what we had in the colonial period. The infrastructure development, railway and ports, we all know, like the picture we saw, it was just for exploitation or export raw material for the gain of Europe. Then we have minimal industrial process within Africa during that time, during the colonial period. Then the post-colonial period and modern period, we had in the 70s or in the 60s, late 60s, 70s, most countries discovered oil exploration. So, and at that time, we believe we've arrived. So we had growth in oil, mining, cement production, agro-processing industries. So at least it improved a bit, and we had emerging manufacturing hub as we've identified in the past. South Africa, Egypt, are part of the people that started using the code, the reporting templates, and it has helped their countries a lot. Nigeria too formed as a and falls under the emerging manufacturing hub, which we know that we can do better. We are not there yet. If African can be grouped under others and just emitting just like 4% of total global trade, then emerging is questionable as a hub. Then we have Ethiopia as well. So increasing integration into global industry systems. Basically, that's what we have to do. We need to come on the table, sit on the table and have a discussion as, you know, as people that benefit mutually. It's not going to be one way or one-sided approach. Now, going for our foreign engagement, we need to see how our governments can actually discuss based on mutual benefits, not just that they are giving us aid or grants. And basically, that's how Africa can actually emerge or become who they want to be, because we are doing less than 4%, which is very, very, very insignificant. And a collective 55 countries. It's very, very sad. Then we have key industrial sector driven environmental change in Africa. In the mining and mineral extraction, we had gold significantly very visible in Ghana and South Africa, copper in Zambia and Democratic Republic of Congo, diamond in Botswana, iron ore in Liberia and Guinea. Then the environmental impact of when you want to extract these mineral resources. We have land degradation and soil erosion. Usually, because we don't have a scientific way of doing our thing, we just randomly take random site and we open, and before you know, land degradation happens. And you have the soil erosion as well. We also have the water contamination by heavy metal. We saw that effect, especially in Zamfara. And then the exposure and all that. In most cases, we see the effect even in our where there is oil spillage and all that. We have loss of vegetation or biodiversity. The fishes in the river dies. Aquatic animals are not edible. You can't eat them. Even the vegetables, you have mutation that comes with it. So all these things are, environmental changes, the drivers of the environmental changes. We get these industrial materials, we can extract them, yes. But what is the environmental implication? What impact does it have on the environment? So we have oil and gas, major producers, Nigeria, Angola, Algeria, Libya. We can all see what is happening in Libya. Libya is on governing an ungoverned space right now. We have parallel governments. Angola, maybe because of their style of leadership. Algeria, maybe because of their monarchy system. Nigeria, thankfully, we can still say we are doing good. But environmental impacts of all this, we have oil spillage. We are all witness of and that's why we have NOSDRA that is being assigned for them to see how they can protect us from oil spillage. Gas flaring, we can see that effects in especially people that live in River State, Port Harcourt to be precise. You can see sometimes you leave your house for 1 week and by the time you're back, everywhere is black. Then we have the disruption of mangrove and aquatic ecosystem, which I've already identified. Most times you can't even play around your neighborhood because the water is sticky and it has some reaction on our bodies. Then we have the industrial agriculture, large-scale plantation, cocoa, oil palm, sugarcane, tea. Most tea you can see in Ethiopia, oil palm, arguably, you will see it in Southeast Africa, that's Southeast Nigeria, cocoa, Southwest Nigeria. But we can say that these industrial plantations are actually fading out. What is happening? What are we doing wrong? The use of chemical fertilizer and pesticides. Yes, it can help us get away, but can we have more, natural ways to actually take care of these our plantations and all that? So you can see the environmental impact of we having large-scale plantations. We can have deforestation. We take away the natural habitat and put in our own commercial cash crops. At the end of the day, those cash crops, after they reach their gestation period, they die off, leaving those areas to be, exposed. We have soil degradation. Most cultivation, if not well, monitored and upgraded, also lose the soil value. The profile goes down. Then we have water pollution. Industries definitely bring about water pollution. Then we have manufacturing and urban-based industries. Cement factories, textile and food processing, steel and construction materials. These are drivers of our economic change in Africa, key industry sectors. So we can see the environmental impact is air pollution, as we mentioned. In Sokoto State, Sokoto Cement, if you come out in the morning like this, you see your car everywhere covered. I'm sure even in Kogi State, at where Dangote Cement is, they also witness almost the same thing. Then we have this industrial waste generation, definitely. Not everything that goes into industry that comes out as a finished product. They actually emit waste. They produce waste. Where did they dump this waste? That is what we have to answer. How do we now make those waste a resource? Because what the circular economy is talking about is how we can transform waste into a resource. So it will be a circular flow of usability, which will lead to environmental conservation and environmental sustainability as well. So we have urban environmental stress. Then, the urban heat that we witness might be because of this fact. So I think let me just stop at this place because time is fast spent. Any question, contribution, observation, and just let's see what we have about what we've discussed at this time? You can raise up your hand, so we call you to speak. Hello, are you out there? Or have I been speaking to
Yes, sir,
myself?
we can hear you, sir.
I hope the class is not tired. Oh, yes, I can see George has raised up his hand. At least that shows that someone was listening.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for the lecture. Sorry, sir, my network is poor, but I have my question in the comment section. I don't know whether you can hear me.
Please speak, we can hear
We
you.
can hear
Okay,
you.
okay. Sir, my question is, yesterday we were talking about a Weber's theory of industrial location. Now, coming to understand the fact that Africa has almost everything it needs. But when we look at the industries and where they are located to tap these resources, they are being taken away from Africa. How do we now justify this Weber's theory with the transportation costs, the labor cost, and then the agglomeration cost of these resources? Thank you. I don't know whether you got my point.
I really get your question. The way you understand, like these theories or these models were originated from where? From Europe. Africa has not come onto the, in short, Africa did not even try to partake in the theory that has been originated since early 20s. Because now that is meant to be the right sequence of things. And if you see in some location of some industries we have in Nigeria, like the cement factory by Dangote in Kogi State, like the LLNG plant in the South in River State, you see there is a location where they can actually get the resource that they can use for that particular industry. So it has always been the order of the day. But the reason why they have been exploring us is part of the diagram that I showed you, that the whites usually do the carrot and stick approach. They bring in reforms. They tell you that policies are well written. There's already a good framework. But now what happens is that the carrot is that they give you that, yes, we have something that works for you. But the stick is that they'll bring in some bit of a conflict that makes you not to be organized, because the African leaders are selfish oriented in nature. And instead of them to look at, yes, let's have a mutual agreement in terms of how you take our resource. Let's put in let's put in value into our value chain. Instead of you just coming to collect cocoa from us, let's see that we have a processing firm or processing plants that we can change this cocoa into like a chocolate or something. Or if you want to come and purchase from us, come and site your factory in Africa. Come and put the value chain in Africa. So that's the other side of it. It's not because the theory doesn't work, it's because Africa has not come to the table. And that is based on our personality as a race, or based on the form of leadership that we have. So Ajoko, please go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, honorable members of this class. Sir. Thank you so much for your lectures. They've been so impactful. I want to contribute a little. I agree with you completely. The white people, they are just coming here to extract our materials without adding knowledge to us. I happen to work on a project is a hydroelectricity project from Niger, from Kebbi State to Niger. We have a lot of Indians who knew nothing about this project. You look at some of us who spend a lot of hours in the bush. I actually served as a social safeguard officer and health safety and environment officer who were being paid peanut. Our worry is that this is a World Bank funded project. And even the World Bank officials, when they comes around, most of them are Africans and they don't really seem to ask questions. And then the Indians, if you said anything, it will look as if you're going to lost your job the next minute. And again, they are all over Sokoto, they are all over Kebbi State, and they're all over Zamfara. It's either they are mining, or they are into rice milling, or they are into extraction of minerals. Recently, there was an accident that happened in Brini Kebbi. A lot of people died, and it was as a result of these Indian people, their nonchalant attitude. You know, people died, and it was just like as if nothing happened. So I think, sir, we need to we need to have a rethink. We need to design a national outlook. What do we want exactly? By doing that, I think we'll have a new roadmap. We'll actually not allow these guys to be taking our commonwealth. At least if you see the rice mill industries in Kebbi, some in Sokoto and some in Zamfara, even Kano State, the people working in these rice mills, the work condition there is nothing to write home about. And the Indian seems not to bother. Their own is just work, work, and work. I think going forward, we need to have a new mindset that will help us to stand as Africans, and then we'll defend what we have. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you so much. I think when we speak from reality, we can actually connect. What we practice is not far-fetched from what is happening. So the only thing we can do as practitioners are people going into a degree base, trying to be special, subject expert individuals, is for us to, see how we can come up as a group to make sure that things are done rightly. Because we understand that, and I think the mindset of an average African man, or the black race basically, is not collective, and we need to change that orientation. We need to be our brother's keeper. We need to say truth to power, and we need to make sure that our voices are collectively heard. Because if that is not done, the whites will continue to use our leadership to exploit us, and at the end of the day, the environment won't be sustainable, because at the end of the day, they'll come, do whatever they want to do. You expose yourself to risks, environmental risks that comes with health, biological health implications and all that. And you get peanuts. Peanuts that can't even pay for your Medicare. So all these things are meant to be what we need to, advocate about, in as much that we are looking at how the environment be sustainable. The environment also includes us as human. We are also a resource. So the human resource has to be protected. And that means that the Nigerian people have to be protected. So I think we've come to our time. So I don't know if there's any other contribution before we call it a day. So you can speak. Hope everybody understand what we've lectured or discussed today. We can say aye. Let's know so we can have it.
Yes, sir, we understand.
So I need more voices to know. Okay, I'm seeing it on the chat box. Okay, that's nice. That's nice. So I think I'm still having you guys tomorrow. I'm the one taking tomorrow class.
Yes, dog.
Well taken.
Yes.
We understand.
Hi.
Thank you, sir.
Hi. Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
Hi.
So Simon.
Hi.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'm overwhelmed now. So thank you.
thank you so very
All right,
much,
Thank you
sir.
sir.
very much, sir.
Bless you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
guys. We'll
you.
see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye. We are
Thank you,
grateful.
sir. Thank you, sir.
What?